Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my two co-hosts, Russell Jackman and Mike McDowd. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. Today's trivia theme, miscellaneous trivia. Also want to welcome to our latest additional station, AM 1550, SLC Sports Radio in Salt Lake City and throughout the Salt Lake Valley, with a special thanks to Program Director Dino Costa. Today, we are going to have a special guest coming on in the second segment. Mike, you want to kind of tease us as to who that is?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is about as an authentic of a show as it gets. My next guest is a gentleman by the name of Peter Goplerud, and I hope I didn't screw up his name. He can correct me if I did or did not. But Peter is a guy who literally, folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I met about, 20 minutes ago, and turns out we were taking our dogs to doggy daycare, and he was wearing a Kansas hat, University of Kansas Jayhawks, and a conversation ensued. And it turns out that Peter not only likes sports, knows sports, but is an expert in the field of sports and law. He's a sports law professor and attorney. And he is going to be able to really kind of fill us in about the landscape of college sports. I got to tell you, Edward, the future of college sports doesn't look really good. I mean, I'm worried about it. For the big boys, it looks fine. For the little boys and girls, not so good. So we're going to talk to Peter. So gracious that he is joining us last minute by the seat of his pants.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is our other co-host Russell Jackman also just happens to be an attorney and just happens to know and love sports. So this will be kind of fun having us all talk together. Tell you what, we're going to go to our first.
This happens. This guy's intruding on my turf. What are you kidding?
All right, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman, Michael McDowd, and Michael, can you please introduce our guest?
Absolutely. A guy that I've known for just, so long, the great Peter Goplerud. And again, Peter, if I messed up your last name, please correct me. But when I say great, Peter and I have known each other for a total of 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And we ran into each other this morning. And Peter is involved in the world of sports. He specializes in sports law as a law professor currently with Florida A&M University, home of the mighty Rattlers. I believe in Orlando, Peter told me. And he's, of course, an attorney, has worked with around NCAA cases, and just is well schooled in the world of college sports, particularly with the whole NIL issues that are taking place, name, image, and likeness. I was going to come up with another name, not in my lifetime. But anyways, Peter, listen, thank you so much for literally joining us last minute. It's a thrill to have you. And I know I believe you grew up in Iowa. So I'm guessing you're either a Cubs fan or a Cardinals fan. And you went to the University of Kansas, so I know you're a Jayhawk. But thrilled to have you aboard. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Michael. And as you suggested when we ran into each other and started talking about this, it's kind of divine intervention, fate, good timing, all of that.
Now, the important question: Are you a Cardinals fan or a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan?
I grew up listening to both the Cubs and the Cardinals on radio because both teams had pretty powerful radio stations. Actually, the very first game I went to was a Cubs Braves game in Milwaukee as a kid, and then my both sets of grandparents lived in extreme northern Iowa, right on the Minnesota border. And so when the Minnesota Twins became an organization, one of my grandmothers was totally hooked on them. So I went to a number of games there, but ultimately became a Cardinals fan because my spouse is from St. Louis. And I also pay attention to the Rays a little bit because my oldest daughter worked for them for a few years ago, her first year out of college.
Nice,
Okay.
nice, nice.
Peter, how long have you been a law professor, basically a sports law professor?
Well, I've been a law professor for, let's say, lots of decades. Started, kind of fell into the sports law thing early in my career at Southern Illinois University, which at that time was one of about 5 schools that even offered a course in sports law.
Hmm.
And the guy who was teaching it left the year after I got there. And I went to the dean and said, "Hey, can I teach this?" And he said, "Sure." Only there were no textbooks, no nothing. I had a very good friend who was one of the few other people in the country teaching that, and so he gave me some materials to use, and I got started with it. And ultimately, he and I and a law professor who was then at Gonzaga Law School published the first sports law textbook in 1990. That book is now in its 10th edition, and we also have a version that is used by sports management graduate and undergraduate programs.
Wow.
But
the law has changed like so much, especially, I mean, with this
well,
thing, it's crazy.
Oh, it's very crazy. It makes for some interesting things in the classroom because it's never dull and has produced some interesting opportunities outside of the classroom as well. But particularly the last since July of 2021, when the NCAA in response to state legislatures passing laws allowing athletes to do what every other college student could do then, and that is make money off of their name, image, and likeness. Things have been, shall we say, interesting.
Okay, we get Ed O'Bannon to come and give a little speech.
Yeah, I mean, Ed and then Sonny Vaccaro, who was kind of helping him and encouraging him through all of that litigation, I think are heavily responsible for where we are now. The NCAA is also heavily responsible for where we are now because they have continued to violate the antitrust laws and haven't apparently yet learned as we're waiting for the settlement in the House litigation to be approved by the judge, and looking forward to a lot of uncertainty going forward in the next few years.
Oh, well, hey Russ, you're the other attorney on the panel here. You have any questions for Peter or comments?
What would be one of the bigger questions that your students have of you when they ask you about the law and sports?
Well, it kind of depends upon what course it is, because I do a number of different courses. This past year, I did a seminar on collegiate issues, which literally we kind of changed directions during the course of the semester because of things that were happening. Most students, when they first come into the course, I usually ask them, why are you taking this course? Because it's not a required course, obviously, and what's your background? And over the years, I would say more than 75%, maybe 90% of them say that they want to be agents.
Yeah.
And I quickly try to disabuse them of that desire and explain to them that I was an agent for a while and got out of it because I wanted to, be in kind of a different world rather than what quite frequently happens, I think, in the agent world is you're a concierge director, you're a babysitter, and the contract work that I've done since then has been more focused on coaching contracts than athlete contracts. But the other thing is that they don't, Russ, I don't think they don't fully realize when they walk into the sports law class all the things that are involved in law and sports. And sports law, is not really a special area of the law. It's just you're involved in a business that has, regardless of whether you're looking at the collegiate level, the Olympic level, or the professional level, it's business. And so the lawyers involved in that with those types of clients or in-house with teams or conferences have to be skilled in a variety of different things, from contract law to labor law to employment law.
It just amazes me with these contracts. Is, the guy has a good year and suddenly he says, you know what, I want to renegotiate my contract. It's like,
Yeah.
but the employer doesn't seem to be able to do that if the player has a bad year. All right, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, we're talking just miscellaneous trivia here. These questions are all over the map. And Peter, as a reminder, if you know the answer, don't answer quite yet. We'll let you answer when we come right back from break. Our first trivia question: what American food chain is famous for its curly fries? All right, that's our trivia question. I know it's kind of a different one. Don't make me hungry yet, What American food is famous for its curly fries? All right, stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman, Mike McDowd, and our special guest, Peter Goplerud. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd, Russell Jackman, our special guest, Peter Goplerud. And our first trivia question: what American food chain is famous for its curly fries? Peter, do you know the answer to that?
Is that Arby's?
Yes.
Oh,
Arby's.
good one.
Where we
It's lunchtime. It's lunchtime here in Florida.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm starved.
I knew that too, but I wanted to guess to have a shot at it.
Thank you, Russ.
We appreciate that. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, listen, I want to thank Peter for joining us on the show. And one of the, like I said, divine intervention took place this morning. I'm trying to call a couple people that I know to be one of our great guests. And Peter, we have some of the most interesting guests on this show. We've interviewed Patrick Young last week, the big star from the University of Florida, who was injured in a terrible car accident, is an inspiration to this country. Greg Coleman, the first NFL punter. We interviewed the guy, a friend of mine who ran Top Gun, Edward. And so we have all sorts of fascinating guys. We go coast to coast, border to border, and around the world with our U.S. military. And lo and behold, you and I meet. I mean, it's miraculous. And with that said, you tell me you know about sports law. You are really well schooled in the world of college sports, and really the landscape of college sports, for better or worse, is about ready to change. I'm very worried about it. It appears that the big boys, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Big Four, are going to be the power players. And the rest of the college sports, the Sacramento States, the Gonzagas, San Diego States, to heck with them. I mean, is that a fair statement, what I just said?
I think it's a very fair statement, Michael. And indeed, late last week, the NCAA circulated to the so-called lower 22 conferences, those conferences outside the Power Four and the Group of Five, a proposed new governance structure that would give the Power Four 65% membership on committees. And the Big Sky Conference commissioner and the I think West Coast Conference commissioner have already come out very strongly against this, saying it essentially looks like a power grab by the Power Four, and not surprising because they've been working towards this. There are those folks out there who think that eventually it's going to be the Power Two with the Big Ten and the SEC controlling everything. Although I think that the other two conferences will have something to say about that. But we're going to see continued restructuring, realignment with conferences at some point, although that is typically dependent upon the timing of the expiration of TV contracts.
Let me ask you, Peter, is this the sort of thing Congress gets involved with for antitrust?
Well, the NCAA would like to have an antitrust exemption, at least a limited one. They've been lobbying for that for a number of years, and there's been a lot of lobbying effort with regard to the NIL laws that are not uniform across the country, lobbying for some special language that would prevent athletes from being designated as employees. So the NCAA, particularly the last couple of years, has spent a significant amount of money on Capitol Hill lobbying. There have been probably 15 different congressional hearings. And currently, we also have the president weighing in, talking about creating a commission on collegiate sports that apparently is going to be co-chaired by Nick Saban and Cody Campbell, who's the chair of the Texas Tech Board of Trustees and a former football player himself.
Well, you know what's interesting is if you look at like how the IRS views the definition of employee versus independent contractor, I mean, these guys fit right into the employee category. You know, they can't work for anybody else. You know, they have one team they work for. They're designated. You know, you got to come in at this time. You got to, you know, I mean, it's just textbook.
Well, there's a case right now pending in federal court in Pennsylvania that is directly focused on the question of whether athletes are employees under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act, which is the law that requires people in certain segments of business to pay minimum wage. And there's a preliminary ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for that area, the Third Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, that would seem to indicate that they will find, or they will affirm, if the trial judge finds that certain athletes, not all, but certain college athletes, most likely football, maybe men's and women's basketball, are employees as that's defined under the federal law.
Yeah, then they'd have
also
workers' comp to do the social security match, you know, and if it's a money thing, they could always subtract it from any scholarship they're receiving if they want to play games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there are a lot of folks out there who think that an efficient way to deal with some of the issues that are out there right now with regard to athletes, compensation, athletes, the transfer portal, all the things that are causing, upheaval and chaos in collegiate sports, could be taken care of if there was collective bargaining like we have in professional sports. Now, at the moment, in order to have collective bargaining, you have to have employees. But it's conceivable that the one place where Congress might be able to help out a little bit, and I'm very reticent about Congress jumping in on this at all. But if they did, they could theoretically amend the federal labor laws to allow for collective bargaining in collegiate sports without the athletes being designated as employees, and then give the same limited antitrust exemption that exists in professional sports for things that are part of the collective bargaining process. So that would allow you then to get into, have the athletes have a seat at the table, which they've never had, and to be able to get some agreement on compensation, on terms of work, on health benefits, and those sorts of things, even roster sizes.
Right. Hey, Peter, one quick key question in the nuts and bolts of things, but when you talk about compensation, equal distribution across the board, there is not going to be fairness. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about, let's take the University of California, for example, or the University of Kansas, where you went to school. So your football players and your basketball players are going to demand the high bucks, the high salaries. The field hockey players, the water polo players, the swimmers, even the soccer players, they will not be getting equal pay by any stretch of the imagination. So the question is, how are they going to be able to have an inner working of some sort of so-called equal distribution? Because let's face it, young kids are going to get upset. They're going to go on strike. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, even now, the men's sports support the women's in I don't know if it's all categories, but it's in some of them. But go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, the football and men's basketball are the revenue sources for virtually everything in collegiate athletics. Yeah, there are certain schools that produce a good amount of revenue from their baseball team. Some schools have pretty good revenue streams from their women's basketball and their softball teams. You'll have some of the big time hockey schools, have a good amount of revenue there. But for the most part, it's football, and it's football more so than basketball. Although the basketball money is what funds the NCAA, because the NCAA does not control television with regard to football.
Yeah,
and there's not going to be equal distribution, and there's not any real basis for legal basis anyway for complaints by the athletes in the minor sports. What they could have complained about is if they were prevented from making money from their name, image, and likeness. They're still very free to go out and do deals with the local local car dealer, local restaurant, if they can get those sorts of deals. But in the money that the schools are likely to be able to pay directly to the athletes from as a result of the House settlement, that's going to go primarily to football and men's basketball.
Yeah, so it should be. Okay, you guys ready for our second trivia question here? Which U.S. president was 6 feet 4 inches tall? You got to think about this one for a minute. Which U.S. president was 6 feet 4 inches tall? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman, Mike McDowd, our special guest, Peter Goplerud. All right, trivia question number 2. Which U.S. president was 6 feet 4 inches tall? Anyone?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. That is correct.
I was gonna, I that's what I was going with too. And you said it was. How tall is Trump? He's pretty tall.
He says he's 6'4", but he also says
I was going to go with Trump, but you said was.
Well, and he also says he weighs 220.
Yeah, I think a little more than that. Okay,
I think he's about 6'5" with the hair.
Yeah, with the hair, exactly. Okay, just really quickly, a little silly joke of the week. What do you say when you have your favorite smoke shop turns into a J. Crew? Clothes, but no cigar. Okay.
Bad.
That's a really
just bad.
All right. Before we get on to the NBA playoffs, I want to finish up with Peter talking about the law and sports. Go ahead, Mike. You were going to ask a question for Mike, for Peter.
Peter, I asked you a question: the legalities of some of the hot topics going on, and what's one of the things that's at the forefront right now? Besides what we just talked about.
As I alluded to earlier, the big thing that's out there that we may have some clarity on literally within a week or so is the House case that deals with the $2.8 billion damages settlement that has been agreed to. That also is what's going to allow schools going forward to pay their athletes up to $20 million per year directly for quote unquote NIL purposes.
Wow.
We're waiting for the judge, who's the same judge that had the O'Bannon case, the same judge who had the Alston case, to approve that settlement. She sent the attorneys for the NCAA and the plaintiffs back to the drawing table on 2 different occasions, and now that she's got the kind of the final word. An interesting aspect of that is that that $2.8 billion, a big chunk of it is going to be paid by schools outside the Power Four, which were not defendants in the case and were not at the negotiating table for the settlement.
Wow.
They're going to be paying a big chunk of money every year for the next 10 years to cover that $2.8 billion.
And what about, quickly, you mentioned players who are trying to seek a 5th in 6 years to play in college sports, because that's crazy to me, but here we go.
Well, there've been now close to a dozen separate cases filed in federal courts around the country since December, when the first case involved Vanderbilt's quarterback, Diego Pavia, who had gone to a military school, essentially a junior college, in New Mexico for a couple of years. One of those years was a COVID year, and he ultimately transferred to New Mexico State and then to Vanderbilt, and had a kind of a breakout year as a quarterback last year, and all of a sudden had really big time NIL opportunities and probably 0 NFL opportunities. So he wanted to be able to stay in school another year and capitalize on the NIL money.
Interesting.
And a federal judge ruled in his favor, saying that the NCAA's denial of or that their rules with regard to counting junior college eligibility towards Division I eligibility were a violation of the antitrust laws. The NCAA has appealed that case, but has waived that rule for this coming football season only. Subsequently, some baseball players, a couple of basketball players have filed cases with a little bit of variation and nuance, but essentially making the same arguments with regard to, in a couple of instances, starting out at Division II and then transferring to a D1 school and so on. And we've got mixed results in those cases. There have been a couple of different federal courts that have allowed the athletes to have issued injunctions to allow the athletes to have another year. There was a case that was handed down in South Carolina yesterday, involving a College of Charleston basketball player who was seeking a 5th year of eligibility. And the judge denied that and basically said it's not an antitrust violation because the eligibility rules are not a commercial aspect of the NCAA's business. And the antitrust laws are available only for things involving commerce. And so if that line of decisions moves forward, then I think the people who were concerned that every aspect of the NCAA's rules might ultimately be found to be an antitrust violation, those folks may be able to rest a little bit easier.
He could claim that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, in 5 seconds, a friend of mine from Cal Berkeley, who's a football player named Luke Paquette, he played a total of 6 years. He was at Cal for 4, transferred to Boston College for a year, came back for his 6th year as a defensive lineman. Now, he did that because he was hoping to make the NFL. That never happened. So to Peter's point, that's the reason a lot of these guys do it, to try to expand their horizon, to see if somebody will pick them up.
Yeah. And in the case of the Vanderbilt quarterback, it's possible if he has another strong year this year that then maybe some NFL teams will give him a chance. But he for certain is by all reports is going to make 6 figures, maybe even mid 6 figures in NIL money this year at Vanderbilt.
hard to pass up when you're that, especially when you're that age, and you don't your window of opportunity is only so much. Hey, can we shift over for just a minute to the basketball? What's is that a W for win? Mike's putting up his fingers, making a W. NBA playoffs. Holy smokes, these things are getting exciting, aren't they? Maybe the first round was exciting. Second round's just as exciting. I know Russell's very upset because his Warriors are not doing well, but
I mean, Russell, what's going on? Warriors come out and play, yay! I'm a Warriors fan. I love the Warriors, but Russell, as I made my point, the Warriors, besides Steph Curry, have nobody else to really solidify that team to take them to the next level. Kuminga comes off the bench and scores 23 points. They had 3 other guys in double figures, but Russell, without Steph Curry, we love him. He's a Hall of Famer, but I got to tell you, it's not looking good for our Warriors.
And Jimmy, what I don't understand is like when Kerr can see that Jimmy Buckets is gassed, you got to take him out. I don't care who you. I don't get Curry mad poorly because he's gassed. You got to rest him. It just no good. Russell, you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your comments about the Warriors?
Well, I was waiting for you guys to stop your diatribe, and then I was gonna
Go ahead,
Russ.
Russ.
Obviously Curry is one of the 5 best players in the game right now, and you subtract that, I mean that's 25 points a game, almost 30 points a game that you have to make up for, and Podemski's not making up for it. Moody, who was a big factor in their run, has been completely gone. Post was a big part of their makeup, and he's been completely out of the lineup. And look, I mean, everything that Minnesota put up last night from 3-point range went in. I mean, they shot over 50% from threes, and Edwards, we're seeing him develop into one of the new great players of the NBA. And that sometimes that's an inevitable thing. The Warriors have been on top for so long. You can't be on top forever all the time, and age and time catches up with you. And look, I mean, you don't have to be that old. Look at Jason Tatum. He's probably going to be out maybe even for all season, and that may,
What was the final diagnosis? Did they figure it out?
They still haven't given the MRI results yet.
Yeah,
so
I don't think they've said anything yet.
He was in so much pain. I don't see him hopping right back into the court. And Boston's down 3-1.
Yeah.
I know. They're not going to win 3 games in a row against New York.
No.
And so that series is over too. And if anyone told me that Indiana would be going to the Eastern Conference Finals, I want to see that score sheet where I want to see that betting column where people had Indiana against New York. Show me that one for the Eastern Conference Finals.
And Russell, you got Jalen Brunson, 39 points, Towns with 23, Annabroy with 20, and Bridges was 23. I mean, you look at that power punch that the Knicks have. They are really, I think, in my opinion, the surprise team. And who knows, they might make a run of the whole thing.
Surprise team.
Indiana
is the surprise team. Nobody even thought that they won over 50 games this year. They have literally snuck their way into it. And to clock Cleveland, who everyone had listed going to the finals.
Yeah.
We might not even see Oklahoma City make it to the finals. Looks like Denver might have their number. So I
wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah.
And then guys, the NBA draft, Cooper Flag, #1 pick. I mean, I think that's the obvious.
Boom on Dallas getting it. 1 point. If you make the NBA play-in game, the best you should get is a 3rd or 4th draft pick. Number 3 and number 4 draft pick.
Chance, apparently.
It's crazy. They're already a pretty good team. When you make the play-in, you're a pretty good team. You don't need the number 1 overall draft pick. It's like the league is saying, okay, you lost Doncic, now you'll get Cooper Flag to go right back. They're in the NBA Finals two seasons ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't understand that Luka Doncic for come on,
Anthony Davis.
David.
I mean, I don't understand Dallas trading him away, but anyway, that's one of those strange trades.
And two Rutgers players are predicted to be 2 and 3. The kid
Yeah.
Dylan Harper to San Antonio, and then the other kid, Arias Ace Bailey. I mean, when's the last time Rutgers has produced two, let alone one top pick, two back-to-back picks? So it's really interesting.
How did they do in the tournament?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
No, remember. Yeah, I mean that is pretty. These, yeah. What positions those guys play?
Harper's a point guard, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
good
I'm not sure about Bailey.
Well, that's pretty.
Bailey is he's a small forward.
Interesting. I mean, I could see maybe if you had like some, 7'5" center or something, that you go, okay, well, yeah, of course you're going to try for him, but just a, power forward or small forward or point guard, there's a lot of those out there. Okay, we're going to cut to a break pretty soon here, Mike. Really quickly, what do you want to say?
Baseball, Aaron Judge is insane. He's hitting 400. He's leading the league in home runs. I mean, the Yankees got the best record in baseball, or excuse me, the Dodgers do. But what he's doing is if you look at the stats, it's remarkable what this guy is doing. Will he be the guy that actually finally hits 400? I don't know. It's interesting.
Or Triple Crown, or just even getting the Triple Crown. Okay, you ready for our last commercial break here? What is the world's sunniest city? Okay, world's sunniest city. I will give you a hint. It actually is in the United States. Apparently, 91% of possible daylight hours. That's our okay. But you got to give me which city it is. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Michael McDowd, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Peter Goplerud. Third trivia question: what is the world's sunniest city? And it's in the United States. Go ahead. I heard
Peter?
someone there.
Peter, go ahead.
Phoenix? No, but it is in Arizona.
Tucson.
No. Russell?
Really?
I would say Sedona.
No, Yuma. Yuma, Arizona. Yuma, Arizona. But you know what?
Okay.
Guessing Phoenix is pretty good, though. I tell you, in all the world, you happen to choose the right state. That's not bad. All right. You guys ready for our thoughts for the day here? Here we go. Why is it that people say they slept like a baby when babies wake up like every 2 hours?
Mine did. My twins did.
Did they?
Yes, they were up it was like one would go to sleep and the other one would be up, and they were up like 22 hours a day. Yeah, for about 2 years.
See, there you go. That's why you wonder why they say slept like a baby. And
No.
If Wile E. Coyote had enough money to buy all that Acme crap that he did, why didn't he just buy dinner? Like, why keep chasing that Roadrunner? I mean, come on. I have to rewrite the cartoon. Peter Goplerud, thank you very much. Sports law professor from Florida A&M. Excellent discussions here, but definitely sports related and economics related. I like that.
My pleasure.
Authentic.
Wait, what's that, Mike?
And very authentic.
Very authentic.
Very organic flowing, okay?
Very organic. All right, audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective like we did today and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.